Welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're going to try and understand the impact of kindness. And not just, the impact, but also how interconnected it all is.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating.
Yeah. We've got a bunch of really interesting sources to help us with this. We've got some articles about kindness and how it affects our mental health. We've got a Simon Sinek video, and we've got another article all about the ripple effect.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, we've all heard about how negativity can spread like wildfire sometimes. But what about the good stuff? Can kindness be just as contagious? Can one little act really make that much of a difference? That's what we're here to find out.
It's a question that's been around, forever, really, hasn't it? But the cool thing is that these days we're starting to, really understand how powerful kindness can be. And not just for the person, receiving it,
Right.
but for the person giving it, and even for people just watching it happen.
Yeah, and actually one of the articles we've got, it's from the Mental Health Foundation.
Yeah.
And it says that, get this, 63%, that's like most people, of adults in the UK think that kindness from other people actually makes their mental health better.
Right.
And here's the kicker, the same amount say that being kind to others, doing the kind thing, that helps their own well-being. Like some kind of two-way street of good vibes.
Yeah.
You know?
That's really interesting.
Have you ever noticed that? Like in your own life?
Oh, totally. I think we've all felt that kind of warm feeling after we've had a genuinely nice interaction with someone.
Yeah.
Or when we've gone out our way to help someone else out.
For sure, for sure.
But the thing is, it's not just some kind of anecdotal thing, Simon Sinek's video, it goes right into the science of it. He says acts of kindness, right? They trigger the release of oxytocin in our brains.
Oxytocin, isn't that like the love hormone? I vaguely remember, I think I read about it somewhere.
Yeah.
That it helps us, bond with people. And it's related to, social connection, all the good stuff.
Yeah. It's amazing, you think of kindness as this simple thing, but then it sets off all these biological processes. And it ends up affecting not just how we feel, but also maybe how the people around us feel.
So it's not just like a fuzzy feeling. It's like an actual chemical reaction happening in our brains.
Exactly.
Wild.
Yeah, it is kind of wild when you think about it.
Okay, well, that leads us perfectly to this idea of the ripple effect. One of the articles goes into that in detail.
Okay.
And I love, there's this cartoon they use to show how negativity spreads.
Okay.
Maybe you've seen it. It's the one where the boss yells at his employee.
Right.
And then the employee goes home and yells at his wife.
Yeah.
And it just keeps going like that.
Yeah, I know the one. It's funny, but it also makes you think a little, right?
It is kind of scary how easy it is for that bad energy to, spread.
It really is. But the cool thing is, the exact same thing happens with kindness. Except in a good way, obviously.
Okay.
The article talks about how when people see acts of kindness, it inspires them to be kind too.
Right.
So then it creates a chain reaction. One good deed leads to another and then another. They even mention this real life story about a random act of kindness towards this homeless man.
Oh, yeah.
And it ended up inspiring a whole wave of generosity in the community.
I remember reading that. That's incredible how one person's small gesture can snowball into this huge thing, Yeah. And then with social media and everything,
All right.
those ripples can spread even faster and further than ever before.
That's so true. Someone shares a story online about someone being kind, and the next thing you know, thousands of people all over the world are feeling inspired.
It's wild. I mean, it really makes you think about how connected we all are, right?
Definitely. This idea that our actions, even, small ones,
Right.
can have these massive ripple effects. It really challenges the idea that we're all just isolated individuals.
Yeah.
It shows that we're actually all part of this big interconnected web of human experience.
Okay, but let's get real for a second. We know the world can be a tough place. I mean, does it really just take some small act of kindness to create a ripple that big?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Or do we need, some grand gesture?
Well, the good news is it seems like those little everyday things can actually make a big difference.
Right.
Think about just giving someone a genuine compliment,
Right.
letting someone merge in front of you in traffic, or even just holding the door open for someone.
These are all things anyone can do, no matter how busy or stressed they are.
Exactly. And they don't cost anything,
Right.
but they can really, like, brighten someone's day.
I keep thinking back to that oxytocin thing.
Oh, yeah.
So not only are we spreading joy to other people, but we're also giving ourselves a boost of those feel-good chemicals.
Exactly. It's a win-win for everyone.
I love that. But I'm wondering, like, can those little everyday acts actually change the world? Like, if enough people start choosing kindness.
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
What if enough people start making those small choices in their everyday lives? Choosing to be kind.
Yeah.
Could that lead to, like, a larger shift in our society's norms? It's kind of like a quiet revolution,
Fueled by compassion.
Exactly.
I love that. Okay, I'm definitely feeling inspired. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole,
Okay.
let's talk about Simon Sinek for a minute.
Yeah.
He's known for his ideas on leadership and purpose.
Right.
So I'm really curious to see what he has to say about kindness.
So in his video, he tells this story that I think really gets at the heart of what we've been talking about.
Okay.
He was walking down the street one day, and he saw that someone had dropped some papers, and he stopped to pick them up for them. Like a really simple thing.
Yeah, sounds pretty straightforward.
Yeah, but someone saw him do it, and they came up to him and said, "That was really cool of you."
Oh, wow.
And the thing is, they both felt good afterwards.
Okay.
Sinek because he had been kind, and the other person because they had seen it.
Wait, so you're saying even just witnessing someone being kind can have a positive effect?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? It really shows how kindness is good for everyone involved. It's not just about the person receiving it.
That's incredible. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. And then Sinek goes on to explain that when we do something kind and our brain releases oxytocin,
Yeah.
that's actually nature's way of encouraging us to look after each other.
That's so cool. So it's like a biological thing.
Right. Like we're wired for connection and compassion.
I love how he frames it. So being kind isn't just about being, like, nice.
Mhm.
It's about something way deeper. Like, it's built into us.
Totally. And it's essential, for us to thrive both as individuals and as a society.
And it makes me wonder, if we start to really cultivate kindness,
Yeah.
are we doing more than just making the world a nicer place? Like, did we actually be tapping into, like, our deepest human potential?
I think that's a question worth thinking about,
Oh.
but maybe we should save that for later.
Yeah, good idea. But before we get too philosophical, I want to bring this back to our listeners.
Yeah.
Like, what does all this mean for them, for their everyday lives?
That's a great point. I mean, we've talked about a lot of things today.
Yeah.
It's important to take a minute and think about how all this applies to your own life, What really stood out to you?
Yeah, what resonated with you? And maybe even more importantly, how can you put what we've talked about into action in your own life?
Well, it doesn't need to be some big, huge thing. Like,
Yeah.
remember those little things we were talking about before? Like, maybe someone at work is having a rough day,
Yeah.
and you give them a nice, genuine compliment.
Right.
Or maybe you let someone with just a couple of things go ahead of you in line at the store. Or you just make eye contact with someone and, smile at them.
It's funny you should say that.
Oh, yeah.
Just the other day, I was walking my dog,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw one of my neighbors trying to carry, like, a ton of groceries up their front steps.
Oh, yeah.
And I almost, like, just kept walking.
Yeah.
But then I remember what we were talking about how those little things can make a difference.
Right.
So I stopped and helped them. And honestly, it didn't take very long.
Uh-huh.
But it felt good to help. And they were so thankful.
It's crazy how much a little thing can do for someone, isn't it?
It really is.
And think about it, like, what if, because you help them,
Yeah.
that neighbor then does something nice for someone else?
Yeah.
And then that person does something nice, and on and on. It's those ripples we were talking about.
I hadn't thought of it like that.
Yeah.
It's like we're all connected in this big, like, invisible kindness network.
Right.
And every time we do something, it's like sending a pulse through that network. It reminds us that we're not alone.
I love that. I think it speaks to how much we all need connection
Yeah.
and how much we need to feel like we belong.
For sure.
Especially, these days when everything can feel so isolating, like kindness can be like an antidote to that.
Yeah. It's a good reminder that even though things can be tough,
Mhm.
we're all in this together.
That's right.
It's like we have this power to actually make a difference.
Uh-huh.
Like we often feel so helpless when we see all the negativity in the world.
Right.
But this reminds us that we actually can do something, one little act at a time.
Exactly. It's like that quote, I think it's Margaret Mead. She said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has."
Yeah, I love that.
But I think it applies to individuals,
Yeah,
too.
for sure. Like each of us can be like a little activist, armed with kindness.
I love that. And remember all that stuff we've been talking about today, the research and everything?
Right.
Kindness isn't just some like fluffy feel-good idea.
Yeah.
It can actually change things, not just in our own lives, but for everyone.
So before we wrap up all this like amazing conversation about kindness,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say is like the main thing for our listeners to take away from all this?
That's a good question. Let me think. I think the biggest takeaway is that kindness is contagious. Like, it has this ripple effect that goes way beyond just the first act,
Okay.
It affects the person who receives it, but also the person who gives it, the people who see it happen, even, like, interactions in the future.
Yeah. And as we talked about before, those ripples,
Yeah.
they can have a big effect on us, like on how happy we are, on our relationships, even on society as a whole.
Exactly.
Wow.
So as you're going about your day, I
Yeah.
want you to think about the chances you have to, to spread those ripples of kindness.
Right.
Maybe it's just holding the door open for someone or saying something nice to them, or maybe just, really listening to a friend who's going through a tough time.
Totally.
It doesn't have to be big. Every little thing can make the world a little bit better, one interaction at a time.
This has been honestly such an inspiring conversation.
Yeah, it has.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling so energized.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to be more intentional about being kind in my daily life.
Yeah, me too. It's a good reminder that there's still so much good in the world, even with all the, the chaos and stuff.
Yeah.
And it all starts with us, one little act of kindness at a time.
It's kind of funny, right? We always
Yeah.
think of kindness as being like, soft
Yeah.
or passive.
Yeah.
But now I'm starting to see it as this real, like, powerful thing.
It's almost like a superpower
Yeah.
that everyone has, and we just gotta unleash it.
Yeah.
And the best part is you don't need any special skills or
Yeah.
anything
Yeah.
to do it. All you need is to be willing to open your heart and help others.
I love that. It's like we're all superheroes.
Mm-hmm.
But, we've talked a lot about how kindness can change individuals
Right.
and communities. But what about the person who's actually doing the kind thing?
Right.
Does it change them? Like, on a deeper level?
That's a good question. And you know what?
What?
Researchers are starting to look into that now.
Wow.
Yeah, some studies are saying that when we practice being kind, it can actually rewire our brains, for real.
So you're saying, like,
Yeah.
the more we're kind to other people, the
Mhm.
more empathetic and compassionate we become.
Exactly.
So it's not just about, like, making other people feel good.
Uh-huh.
It's about, like, changing ourselves, like, becoming better people.
Yeah, a whole different way of being in the world.
It's pretty amazing, right?
It is. And the crazy thing is, it doesn't seem to matter if the act of kindness is big or small,
Okay.
or if you plan it or it just happens.
So it's the thought behind it that matters most.
Exactly.
Wow. So even if we mess up sometimes or
Yeah.
we don't always get it right,
Mm-hmm.
just trying to be kind can change us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it gets.
So the more kindness we put out there, the more it becomes part of who we are.
Totally.
That's really encouraging.
That's it.
It means that no matter how crazy the world gets,
Hmm.
each of us still has the power to make things better,
Hmm.
for ourselves and for everyone around us.
And remember, those ripples of kindness, they can go way beyond our little circle.
Yes.
They keep spreading out, touching all these people,
Yeah,
and we might not even realize it.
that's beautiful.
It is, isn't it?
Well, this has been seriously one of the most inspiring deep dives we've ever done.
It has been great.
I don't know about you, but I'm walking away with a whole new perspective on kindness. It's not just some fluffy idea.
Mhm.
It's real. It can change the world.
It really can.
It's like a superpower we all have. And it's the key to being the best versions of ourselves.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, it's been awesome talking about all this with you.
You too.
And to everyone listening, we hope this has inspired you to unleash your own kindness superpower. Remember, even the smallest thing can make a difference. So go out there, spread some kindness, and let's make the world a brighter place. One interaction, one smile, one kind act at a time.